What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to episode 2 of Jay and Kramer. I'm Jay. That's Kramer.
What's up?
I was feeling the shades today. I had to go with the shades for this episode. The Yankees are not putting me in the best mood, so I'm hiding my emotions a little bit. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Yankees, of course, are very depressing right now. 4-0 lead blown by J-Hap, but that's been the story for the past, week and a half. Then we find out Judge is not even close, and
Poor
it's a
Stan.
race against the clock to get him back. It's just
I mean, this game that we're watching now, the Mets game, it's like it feels just like the doubleheaders. We get like a little lead. We think, okay, we can squeeze by the Mets, and then next thing you know, we just implode. So hopefully we can pull this one out. But anyways, the trade deadline just passed. As we know, the Yankees didn't make any moves, but there was a flurry of moves around MLB, which we probably didn't really expect before the season started with COVID-19 and everything going on, a 60-game season. It was going to be tough to make some trades, but there was quite a bit of moves going on. There was a blockbuster.
there was.
So we can dive a little bit into that. What's a team or a couple teams that you think were winners at this deadline?
Well, I think we both can agree the Padres definitely came out of nowhere. So
Yeah.
they acquired, I believe it was Trevor Rosenthal was one of them. He knows how to throw a strike again. And then mainly the big blockbuster, which was they did get Mike Clevinger for a flurry of prospects. Don't think coming into the season anyone saw Mike Clevinger getting traded even to the Padres. So that came out of nowhere. And, I mean, they gave up a haul. If I can actually pull it up, it wasn't – the Indians, they got I believe it was Josh Naylor was one of them. So, yeah, it was a crazy trade. They also got Greg Allen. The Padres ended up getting Greg Allen for some reason. Then, of course, they got Austin Nola from the Mariners in a lopsided trade, but we'll get into that in a bit. But, I mean – hey, the Padres are the perfect team that uses this 60-game season to their advantage of buying now and seeing what happens. And, I mean, they had the prospects to do it, and they kept Patino and they kept Mackenzie Gore. So that was quite impressive.
Yeah, they had an impressive deadline. Some of the moves I think were just made out of a little bit of excitement. They have a young team. They're probably overperforming a little bit right now. They're the hottest team in baseball, I'd say. So I like the fact that their general manager went after some guys. You know, he acquired 2 catchers, which was like, I don't know why, but hey, man, fuck it. Like, let's just go get these guys.
Let's do it.
He got Jason Castro and Nola. And I like what they're doing, man. It's exciting to see a young team competing in a tough division and their general manager backing them and saying, listen, you guys keep playing hard. I'm going to surround you guys with veterans and make some moves that'll help us win in October. So I'm really excited to see what they do down the stretch. For me, on the other end of those deals, we had the Mariners pulling a haul for a guy who I'd say, he's impressive this year. He's been a consistent big leaguer. Aaron Nola's brother, Austin Nola. I mean, he's a great guy to add to your clubhouse if you're the Padres, but they gave up quite a bit for him. And I don't know if you read off the list, but they gave up a guy that throws 103 miles an hour, a reliever. Could be a closer in the making for the next 8 years. You never know with that. Like those types of guys, you just kind of got to keep them around and see what happens with them.
Yeah, and they gave up Taylor Trammell.
Yeah, and I wasn't expecting that. I mean, I would have expected that in the Clevenger deal, but not for Nola. But hey, like we said, like the guy, they're going after it. So if you have to move a guy who you might see as blocked for the next few years, you got to pull the trigger. And the Mariners, I'd say is a winner from this deadline because they're obviously going nowhere, and they pulled off quite a nice package. And their outfield looks really, really, really strong for the next decade. Like you have a guy like Kalenic, you have Kyle Lewis, and now you add Taylor Trammell to that.
I think Julio Rodriguez is an outfielder.
They look really solid. They love making trades, and I can definitely say this one was a positive one for that organization.
I remember when that trade, at first it said just Austin Nola, and then it said in a 7-player deal, and I'm like, whoa, what? I mean,
Yeah.
yes, I've heard that the stat nerds love Nola, but you're giving up Taylor Trammell. I actually have the actual list right here.
Hmm.
It was Ty France as well, Taylor Trammell, Luis Torrens, and Andres Munoz. I mean,
Luis Torrens, wasn't he a highly touted catching prospect for a while too? Like I think he's still pretty young. Like the Mariners got the most that you could possibly get in that deal, and I think the Padres were just a little aggressive, which is fine. That's fine. They're going for it all, so I don't blame them. That's when you prospect hug and say a guy like Trammell doesn't work out, and then you look back and say, "Damn, I wish we would have had a guy like Nola in our lineup." Then you regret it. But listen, if the Padres win the World Series this year or get to the World Series, it's a win. And the Mariners in a few years, if their outfield is 3 All-Stars, it's a win.
that
So
team
I have
scares
them
me.
both. They're both winners in their own right. But then you move to another winner who I see at the deadline is a team that didn't even make a move. I think they made one move. I think they got Cody Reed from Cincy, and it's the Tampa Bay Rays.
And
And
they traded Jose Martinez.
right. They traded. That was a little bit before the deadline, but he was. I mean, he wasn't really clicking yet for the Rays. He got a homer off Garrett Coleman, but like that was like his moment in the Rays uniform, and everything else has kind of been below average. But I mean, they really haven't. They didn't make too many moves, and they still are in a really good spot because they're dealing with just as many injuries as the Yankees are, if not more, and
Yeah.
they are blowing us out of the water every time we play them. We're 2-8 against them this season. We're not playing them again, so we don't have a chance to directly make up games on them. The Yankees didn't make any moves. Then the rest of the rest of the division is just like kind of meh. Like the Blue Jays are right around where the Yankees are, but no one's scared of them. And then obviously you have the Orioles and the Red Sox. So I see the Rays as a real winner this deadline.
And then also sticking in the AL East, the Blue Jays made a bunch of trades. They got Taijuan Walker, Robbie Ray, then they got Jonathan VR, but that honestly is like a trade saying, oh, yeah, when is Bo Bichette going to come back?
Mm-hmm.
All these guys are on I believe they all are rentals. Robbie Ray, thank God the Yankees didn't get him last year because I think that man last time we checked had 30 walks in 30 innings.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of glad. I guess if you want, I know we think the Yankees are losers this deadline, but a plus is that I think we play the Blue Jays and the Orioles like 18 times the rest of the year, and hopefully we get to see Robbie Ray a couple of those times
And they
because
got Ross Stripling. I forgot about that. Right at the
yeah,
30 minutes later. I mean, that guy's a Angel legend. He was in the Jock Peterson trade that the Angels GM or owner said, okay, this is taking too long, and
yeah,
literally stopped. But yeah, I mean, they're a young team. They haven't really played like a highly competitive team yet. And while the Yankees do look really bad right now, we are getting one of the biggest pieces to our team back soon. And I mean, today they talked about Stanton not being close, but then recently on the broadcast, they're very encouraged of what they're seeing. So then I'm like, okay, so maybe DH in a week and a half. Judge is not even close, but they get Torres back. I'm hearing Saturday. So if he can be back to what he was, then they're fine. But yeah, the Blue Jays, that's kind of like a expanded postseason kind of deadline. Like, let's get these rental guys to not give up a lot just to see what we can get and see where they go from that.
yeah. I think, and I mean to expand on like the whole Yankee dilemma. I'm not really. I've kind of gotten numb to these injuries at this point. I know this is not like a Yankee show, but just they're part of the MLB, so I just I think that we are seeing a team who has almost accepted the fact that they're not going to win the AL East, which is disappointing because you should be fighting to the very end. But five games behind with like less than half the season left is tough. The Rays and you don't get to play the Rays anymore. It's tough, and you don't have you're not at full strength. So I guess I understand it a bit. They're hoping that guys can come back at the end of September and be healthy, and that's fine. If it works, it works. If we're full strength for that first game in the first round, we send prayers that that happens. But it's gonna be tough, man. We don't want to. The Yankees don't want to, slack off the rest of the season and end up playing a really tough team like the Oakland A's in the first round and risk getting bounced before the ALDS, which is kind of a weird situation now, but that's the reality of what's going on. The AL is kind of deep this year.
Yeah, it's just
Um,
everyone in that congested 60 games. Like no, in like a full season, I got no issues. The Yankees would probably come back and take the division. But right now, with it being 60 games, and yes, the injuries for the Yankees is it's not just like an isolated incident. Of course, it happened last year, but all of MLB this year has had a lot of issues with injuries. But we also have cases of guys saying they're 100%, but they're not. But anyway, before we get deep into these Yankees, because we can go on for hours about how frustrated we are. It's just baseball has an injury problem, but as we were saying, this deadline came to a shock, I think, to both of us. I
mhm.
mean, with who knows about the salaries and stuff. Actually, one thing I did think of before we go to the losers of the deadline, the Marlins made a trade for Starling Marte. That came out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean they reported it that like there was some interest there, but that's one of those things where like they list like 6 teams that might have interest, and you never really pay attention to the teams that you think are not going to make the deal. And again, 60-game season, you never know. And the Marlins got out to a hot start. They're on pace to make the playoffs as of right now, I believe. And we're more than halfway through. I know they have some games to make up, but listen, anything can happen. The NL East is really mediocre. They can make a little push and end up being like a 6 or 7 seed. Why not get a guy like Marte if you don't have to give up much? Like, why not do it? I think the Yankees should have made a push for him and Bradley, but you know, there was a lot of shock. Let's just say that there's more teams in it, so you're gonna see like teams like the Marlins making a big trade.
Yeah, so why don't we go ahead and move up to the losers of the deadline, and why don't you start with yours?
Well, obviously, I think we can agree that the Yankees were losers at this deadline for not making a move. But I think kind of a low key loser from this deadline was the Texas Rangers. I think that not moving Lance Lynn is going to come back to bite them. I think they don't have to trade Joey Gallo at all. They can extend him and make him a Ranger for life. But that team has been really, really mediocre for a while now. And when you have a chance to trade a guy like Lance Lynn, who was kind of just like a
Playing the
lottery ticket signing after you had a shaky year when he got traded to the Yankees, you sign a guy like Lance Lynn and he dominates. He had a really good year last year. He's been lights out this year. He's had a couple shaky starts recently, but overall been really lights out. And the asking price was fairly high,
Yeah, it was.
but you have to have it high for a guy like that. And I'm sure a team could have given them a decent enough return to set up their farm system again. And then you add in a guy like Gallo, they could have got a haul. They could have got a complete haul for, especially from like the Padres or something, or the White Sox. They could have been set up, and I think they missed an opportunity. I don't think that it's like as big of an immediate loser as a team like the Yankees for not making a deal, but the Rangers definitely missed an opportunity.
And basically what's shown is they traded Mike Minor for literally nothing. They traded
Mm-hmm.
Mike Minor at the deadline last year, would have been better.
Yep.
But I'll start with actually one of my losers. It's actually a low key loser. The Boston Red Sox. So JD Martinez has an opt out at the end of the year. There are teams that need a DH. I honestly could have seen him going to Tampa. But the Red Sox are going absolutely nowhere. They have one of the worst farm systems in baseball. Yeah, you can't trade Bogarts. Actually, now they can't because according to his contract, after this deadline, he now has a no trade clause.
Mm.
So, but Martinez, I mean, I can see him opting out. Who knows? But they had a prime opportunity to I mean, they traded Mitch Moreland. They traded both of the Phillies relievers, but they traded two of their relievers to the Phillies, but they got Nick Pivetta, so they didn't get much.
Mm-hmm.
But they had never thought I'd in a way and I wouldn't say compliment them. Never thought I would talk about them, but they missed a huge opportunity because I mean a team that would have needed that was let me look at I mean the Blue Jays could have needed that. They have the prospects. Honestly, the Rays and the White Sox, as we both said, or even the Indians, but that's honestly, that's a whole topic for another day. Talk about the Indians wasting a great group of players and not doing anything.
And just being cheap. But I mean, like you said with JD Martinez, we talked about potential deals on the last episode, and I mentioned how he might opt out. He's a guy, he seems like he's pretty competitive, wants to win. and he wants to get out of that mess that's going on in Boston. And I pictured them trading him to the Cubs.
Oh,
I think they got like not the same caliber guy, but didn't they end up getting Jose Martinez?
they got Jose Martinez. I don't know what
So
for what it was for, but oh
I
my
didn't think
God, this is just a little note to Pat. Brett Gardner just had a what was it? RBI double.
oh, I'm a little behind. I'm on MLB TV. I saw Gio's single.
Yeah, Gardner. Oh, and honestly, we're talking about losers. The Mets. This is gonna be. I'm gonna go at it for this. The Mets, by what they look like right now. I was talking about this to my friend who's a Mets fan. Of course, this isn't gonna happen. But imagine Brody Van Wagen traded Jacob deGrom to a team like the Padres or, God forbid, the Dodgers. Down the line, let's say the Mets continue to struggle. You gotta think of it. And this is not just me being a Mets hater. I'm saying they could literally get any team's number one prospect for Jacob deGrom. I mean, as a Yankee fan, would you trade Jason Dominguez for Jacob deGrom in his prime?
Without question. Without question. That's a guy who, if you insert him into your rotation as a team like the Yankees, you're automatically the World Series favorite, especially with Garrett Cole in your rotation. Are you kidding?
Oh my God.
You're telling me that in a playoff series, I can go Garrett Cole, Jacob deGrom, or Jacob deGrom, Garrett Cole game 2?
And then Tanaka.
We're done. Goodbye. We're sweeping you. Like, it's that simple. Jason Dominguez is a guy I don't think I would trade him for many people. I wouldn't even trade him for Lindor. Straight up, I'd think about it. Because Lindor is obviously my favorite player.
Yeah, that says something when you're not going to trade Dominguez for Lindor, your favorite player.
But I think I think Dominguez is going to be a monster for a really long time. But, man, Jacob deGrom is the best pitcher in baseball. And you put him in a rotation like that, good night. Like, you're not beating a team in a 5-game series. And obviously you'd have to fill out the rest of that rotation. But you go Cole or deGrom, Cole, Tanaka, it's over. The series is over. Like,
yeah, I mean, the Mets, speaking of the Mets as a loser, they bought for some reason. I don't know what the hell is going on in Brody Van Wagen's brain. Let me get Todd Frazier. Let me get Robinson Chirinos. Let me get Miguel Castro. What are you doing? Your team is obviously not going anywhere. Jacob deGrom continues to get no run support. And especially after you made one of the worst trades in recent memory, getting Cano. Don't get me wrong, Cano's having a great year. But everyone is seeing what I think it's Kelenic, I think it's how you say, how he's looking. And then don't even get me started on Edwin Diaz. But I mean
the Brody Van Wagen is one of the worst GMs in baseball. I agree with what he said about Rob Manfred, but that's probably his highlight as the Mets GM. But besides that, it was an eventful deadline. I'm glad that we got some excitement this year because I wasn't expecting much. Like, obviously, we don't have the All-Star game. We don't have the Home Run Derby. We don't have the traditional deadline. There's no more waiver deadline, just like last year. So this was kind of it until the playoffs. And with the Yankees struggling, even though they didn't make a deal, I was glad to see some movement across baseball. It's fun to watch a team like the Padres buy in. So I'm really excited for the rest of the regular season to see how these guys do in their new teams. And then that'll make the playoffs that much more exciting.
I do think we're going to have an absolutely I haven't looked forward to a winter meetings, if there are winter meetings, winter Zoom calls they'll have since actually for a while, because I think we will see that's actually something just before we wrap it up with trades and stuff. You can see a lot of things happening this offseason. I do think we are going to see Francisco Lindor get moved because it's his final year of his contract. Bring him to the – I mean, I would – if they asked for – I mean, they already have outfielders now, but that is – I think this is a winter kind of meetings is going to be one where you just got to buckle in and just see what happens.
Dude, I'd give the Indians I take back what I said. If you get Lindor for the rest of his career, he's what, 27?
Yeah, so you'd have to sign him to an extension.
I'd give them the entire AAA team for Francisco Lindor. It's not even a question. That guy is a monster. He's an alien. He's the best shortstop in baseball. He's a switch hitter. He's fast. He's a platinum gold glove winner. He's 30 pops a year, 110 RBIs, 300 average. Are you kidding me? Sign me up. He's a great clubhouse guy. He's the face of a franchise. He comes to New York, he could be the face of baseball. He's a Tatis type of guy, and he's better right now.
But I think that'll actually do it for us. We'll end it with hashtag Lindor to New York. One can hope, but everyone stay safe, and we'll see you guys later.
I think I'm going to keep the glasses for the remainder of this series. So
you got to. It's a staple now.
Yeah. All right.